Imagine saving like $2 million for retirement. You did the math perfectly. You sacrificed for decades, and you finally crossed the finish line.
Right, you're totally done.
Exactly. And then a massive chunk of your life's work goes directly to an ex-spouse from 20 years ago. And it's all because you didn't check one tiny box on a financial form.
Oh, it sounds like a bad movie plot, but it is a shockingly common reality.
Welcome to today's deep dive. If you are listening to this, you are likely either approaching retirement, aggressively planning for it, or, maybe already navigating it.
Yeah, and today we are analyzing a highly tactical video guide that maps out the ultimate 2026 retirement checklist.
Right, and our mission here isn't to just throw a bunch of financial jargon at you. The source material is incredibly dense, so we are going to act as your filter today.
Which is so needed, honestly. Retirement planning can easily cause just massive information overload.
It really can. So we want to extract the underlying mechanics, the real aha moments behind these strategies, so you feel empowered and not completely overwhelmed.
And a crucial part of that is actually testing the strategies. The source material repeatedly points to this specific free modeling tool, retirementreadychecker.com.
Yeah, we'll be using that as our backdrop for testing everything today. So, okay, let's unpack this. Because before the guide even touches a spreadsheet, it demands a psychological exercise.
Yeah, starting with lifestyle before spreadsheets.
Exactly. It insists that planning retirement without a crystal clear vision is like standing in front of an empty suitcase, throwing in snow boots and a swimsuit, and just hoping you end up somewhere with good weather.
It's just the ultimate example of putting the cart before the horse.
Yeah.
You cannot calculate a financial target if you don't know what you are actually aiming at.
You really can't. The guide challenges you to picture your exact ideal Tuesday, which I love, by the way.
Yeah, because an ideal weekend is easy. Everyone wants to relax on a weekend.
Right, but a Tuesday, that forces you to think about the mundane structure of your actual life.
Precisely. Like, are you waking up in a cabin in the woods? Because that implies low living costs, but maybe higher healthcare transportation costs.
Right, or are you splitting your year between Miami and Lisbon?
Exactly. A quiet life in the Midwest requires a fundamentally different financial engine than a dual continent lifestyle.
And once you define that Tuesday, the source moves into the math, the terrifying, inevitable math of the number.
The big number.
Yeah. Now, for as long as I can remember, financial media has preached the 4% rule, the idea that you need, say, 1.25 million for 50 grand a year. But this guide basically says that's outdated for 2026 planners.
It definitely issues a massive caution sign. The 4% rule was based on historical market data, right?
Yeah.
But given current volatility, planners are pushing for a safer withdrawal rate, like 3.5%, or even an ultra-conservative 3%.
I want to break down the sheer scale of what that single percentage point does. Let's use the guide's example. Say your ideal Tuesday requires $6,000 a month. That's $72,000 a year.
Okay, so under the old 4% rule, you take that 72,000 divided by 0.04, and you need a portfolio of $1.8 million.
Right. Which is daunting, but familiar. But if you drop that to a 3% withdrawal rate, you divide by 0.03, and suddenly your target jumps to $2.4 million.
That is a $600,000 difference just for safety.
Just for safety.
Yeah.
And I have a major bone to pick here because we haven't even talked about inflation.
Ah, the invisible tax.
Yeah. The source provides a stark warning that $72,000 lifestyle today could easily cost $97,000 in 10 years.
Just to buy the exact same goods and services.
Right. So if you apply your safe 3% withdrawal rate to that future $97,000 need, your portfolio target is pushed to $2.7 million.
It absolutely induces sticker shock.
Hmm.
But you have to understand the mechanics here. That number assumes you are entirely reliant on your stock portfolio for every single dollar, which is almost never the case.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because before we even talk about other income sources, the guide reveals a way to massively reduce taxes on the money you do have.
Tax bracket arbitrage.
Yes. Walk me through the actual mechanics of that.
Well, think of a traditional IRA, like a business partnership, where the IRS is your silent partner. Tax bracket arbitrage is a legal mechanism to buy them out when their valuation of your business is at its absolute lowest.
So how do I force them to take a lower cut?
It usually happens during a gap year. Say you retire at 60 or take a sabbatical, but you don't claim Social Security yet. Your earned income drops to nearly zero.
Okay, so my tax bracket plummets.
Exactly. You might drop from the 22% bracket down to the 12% bracket. And the guide says this is the moment to strike by executing a Roth conversion.
So you move money from the pre-tax traditional account into an after-tax Roth account.
Right. If you convert $50,000 during that window, you pay the 12% rate instead of 22. That saves you $5,000 in federal taxes alone.
Wait, hold on. If my income just disappeared, why would I voluntarily pay taxes right then? Doesn't that drain my cash when I need it most?
It's a mental hurdle, for sure. But once that money's in the Roth IRA, all future growth and withdrawals are completely tax-free forever. You pay a small toll today to avoid a roadblock tomorrow.
Okay, that makes sense. The source also points out a geographic version of this, right? Moving from California to states like Florida or Texas with no income tax.
Yeah, which you can actually model on retirementreadychecker.com to see the exact impact on your lifetime tax bill.
Right, so we've defined the vision, we've established the daunting number, and optimized taxes. The next step is engineering how the money actually flows in each month.
Right, without you having to panic every time the stock market dips.
Exactly. Having 2.7 million on a spreadsheet doesn't buy your groceries. And the biggest piece of that income plumbing is Social Security.
The guide is incredibly blunt about this. Most people claim it's 62 simply because they can, which is almost always a suboptimal decision mathematically.
Explain why. Because people think, well, I paid in, I want my money before the government runs out of it.
Sure, but if you claim it's 62, you only get 70% of your benefit. If your baseline is $2,000 a month, you're only getting $1,400.
Wow. Well,
But if you wait until age 70, you get 124%. That's $2,480.
that's an extra $1,000 a month.
Over $200,000 extra if you live to 85. But there is a crucial so what here for married couples.
I found this deeply profound in the text. Walk us through it.
When one spouse passes away, the surviving spouse doesn't keep both checks. They only keep the higher of the two.
Oh, wow.
Right, so the higher earner delaying until 70 isn't just about income, it's life insurance. It protects the surviving spouse for decades with that maxed out check.
That changes the entire conversation, and it reminds me of building a multi-legged stool for income. If your only leg is portfolio withdrawals, a market crash makes you fall over. But if you have Social Security, rental income, annuities, you stay upright.
And speaking of annuities, the guide details a very specific stance. Variable annuities with high fees are usually bad.
Right, you usually hear to run from annuities.
Yeah, but a single premium immediate annuity, or SPIA, can establish a secure floor. Like you take $200,000 at age 65, and it contractually pays you $1,100 to $1,200 a month for life.
Regardless of the stock market.
Completely regardless.
And a non-financial gem from the text part-time work isn't just about the extra $500 to $2,000 a month. It provides structure, social connection, and mental stimulation.
Which is vital. But we have to pivot to the defensive side. Because building robust income streams is completely pointless if massive unexpected expenses are draining your buckets.
The leaks. The guide targets debt, healthcare, and protection. Let's start with debt. How aggressive should you be right before retirement?
The rule is 0 non-mortgage debt within 3 years of retirement.
Using the avalanche or snowball method. And it notes that making just one extra mortgage payment a year cuts 4 years off a 30-year loan.
Which is huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But debt is a leak you can control. The next one terrifies everyone, healthcare.
This raises an important question. What happens if you retire before 65 and have no Medicare?
The dreaded healthcare bridge.
The reality is terrifying. A 60-year-old couple on a marketplace plan might pay $1,500 to $2,000 monthly.
That's up to $120,000 over 5 years just in premiums.
Exactly. Furthermore, Medicare at 65 isn't free either.
Right, people think they just need to make it to Medicare and they're safe.
Not at all. Part B is around $175. Part D for drugs is $30 to $50, and Medigap is another $200.
So a couple is still paying $500 to $700 monthly.
Easily.
Which is why the host, or well, the guide, emphasizes the health savings account as the ultimate weapon, the triple tax advantage.
Right. You put it in tax-free, it grows tax-free, and in 2026, you could pull it out tax-free for medical costs. $4,150 for individuals, $8,300 for families.
It's incredible. Now, touching on protection leaks, the guide mentions umbrella insurance. $1 to $2 million in coverage for just $200 to $500 a year.
It's a no-brainer. But, crucially, they highlight an absolute warning on estate planning. This goes back to your intro.
Yes. The beneficiary designation override.
Right. Beneficiary forms on your 401k or IRA override your actual will. If you don't update them after a divorce, the ex-spouse gets the money.
Update those forms. Okay, so we've plugged the leaks, but the source notes that the true test is how this survives contact with the real world. Locations change, markets crash.
Let's talk location. San Francisco might cost $4,000 a month for a two-bedroom.
While Greenville, South Carolina is $1,200.
Right. Or you could live incredibly well in Portugal for $2,500 to $3,000 total a month.
But the text warns that managing U.S. investments from abroad and dealing with currency risks are real hurdles. It's not just a vacation.
It's not. But the biggest real-world hurdle is sequence of returns risk.
This is terrifying.
It is. If the market drops 30% in year one of retirement, your $1 million portfolio becomes $700,000.
And suddenly your $40,000 withdrawal is an unsustainable 5.7% drain.
You're selling stocks at rock-bottom prices just to survive.
The text explains a defense against this called the bucket strategy. It's like a reservoir system.
Right.
Bucket 1 is what you drink from 2 to 3 years of cash or short-term bonds. Bucket 2 is medium-term. And bucket 3 is long-term stocks.
So in a downturn, you just live off buckets 1 and 2.
Exactly. You let bucket 3 recover and only refill when the market is good.
And the source directs you to run Monte Carlo simulations to really test this.
Yeah, targeting above an 80% success probability, right?
Yeah, exactly. Review budgets quarterly and rebalance if anything drifts 5% from the target.
So we've wrapped up these 10 steps. A retirement plan is clearly a living, breathing entity that needs constant monitoring.
It absolutely is.
And the source highly recommends spending an hour on retirementreadychecker.com to physically model these exact scenarios for yourself. So what does this all mean for you?
Well, the source notes that retirees with purpose live longer and happier. But combining that with the terrifying reality of sequence of returns risk, it leads to a big thought.
I know where you're going with this.
Could the traditional hard stop concept of full retirement actually be fundamentally riskier, like to both our portfolios and our psychological well-being?
Rather than intentionally designing a lifelong semi-retirement phase.
Exactly. Keeping a foot in the door, keeping some income and structure, it's something you really need to deeply consider before you race to the finish line.
It's a brilliant point. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep packing that suitcase smart, keep stress testing those plans, and above all, keep asking the big questions.